It's NBA All-Star Weekend back, and where are the fans? You can count the number of empty seats on one hand. Where we'll discuss the good, the bad, and perhaps the ugly of All-Star Weekend from Inglewood, California, coming up. In baseball, both the Cubs and Sox are back at work with spring training games kicking off later this week. While the official Pacoda projections for both our teams, we'll give you the answers coming up. In college basketball, the final line I picked up a huge win at home against the Indiana Hoosiers. And in old school TV Monday, we'll salute another short lived TV show saluting Black History Month. That and a whole lot more is Second City Sports. The Monday extravaganza starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one is back in the left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr. his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide. Up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington. No chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Gonzalez with the fade on the drive.
Uzi motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to another Monday extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports So Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she, Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And you find McKenna McGee on the Twitter, executors again on IG, and it's down again. So sorry, but apologize, folks.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in the questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you. But you decide to troll or do something silly, dumb, or stupid. Of course, to give you dumbos to Bill and boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game. That's checking us out live in 11 color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:24 p.m. Central Standard Time. But let's not forget much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
And we'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course. We got our Olympic update as both the men's hockey team, they advance to the quarterfinals, while the women get an official ticket punch to the finals as expected. We'll also talk some old school TV Monday as we continue our salute to Black sitcoms for Black History Month. We also have our MJ adds another record, another title to his resume. We'll talk about that and so much more. Of course, the NFL, and of course, the NFL never sleeps here as we'll talk about one team that's clearing up cap space, including releasing some big names and also other moves that could take place during the offseason and playoff predictions, too early playoff predictions for the teams that didn't make the playoffs, and so much more. But Sid, of course, over in Inglewood in the Intuit Dome, All-Star Saturday night, All-Star weekend officially wrapped up yesterday. It was the Team Stars that beat Team Stripes. Team Stars basically is under 30. That's basically what that team. And of course, Team Stripes is for guys over 30. That's basically what that meant. And of course, the Team World had all the world players and such. But it was the Team Stars that got the go ahead 47-21 in the championship. Anthony Edwards had 8 points, and he ended up getting the Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP award. And it actually wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. We'll recap the All-Star Saturday Night stuff after we come back from break. But so what do you think? Because I know people were wondering about the start times because it was so early and blah blah blah. But folks need to remember that back in the day, back when it was on, CBS and ABC, back in the 70s, and also, NBC, of course, when they started doing it back, starting in the early 90s, they aired at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know folks were used to being on TNT when it was on at 7 o'clock at night or whatever. It was actually even earlier since they were out there in Los Angeles, but I know there were some empty seats out there. But Sid, what did you think? Because I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people are thinking it is. But what did you think?
Just reading some, and I do mean some other comments on social media for the last 12 hours or so. Not that long, but since the game ended yesterday. I noticed this one big thing. For those that love the NBA, they loved it. The ones that do not like the NBA, they want to bring it back to the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. They're going to trash it, and that's how I found. Like we always say, take people's comments on social media with a grain of salt. Now, my actual thoughts on the games yesterday, I was very entertained. Now, am I going to sit here and say that All-Star Weekend and All-Star Saturday is back? No, but it's a start because as we talked about on the show, LaKeena, last week, we haven't had a real All-Star Weekend in game, in my opinion, since it was here in Chicago 6 years ago before the world shut down. But speaking about the actual game yesterday, 3 out of the 4 games were very competitive, and it came down to the last shot. I know, as Reggie Miller said on the broadcast yesterday, the Team USA OGs with LeBron and them ran out of gas yesterday, and Team Stripes, i.e. the Young Guns, they carried the day, especially in their last game yesterday. Congrats to Anthony Edwards for winning MVP. But Victor Wembanyama for Team World set the tone with that dunk early in. He had a block shot. I forgot who it was, but he brought the intensity. You could tell that it trickled down to the rest of the young guys and the veterans when they came out for that second game with LeBron and the rest of those guys for the OGs for Team USA. They picked up the energy as well. So if you're an NBA fan, yesterday, like yours surely, they were looking for the All-Star game to be competitive. It was yesterday. So the NBA can give themselves a polite golf clap for that, because given the fact that the All-Star game has been down for the last several years, some people say a little bit more than a decade, but ever since, in my opinion, 2020, this All-Star game lived up to the hype with the new blood and the competitiveness that we saw yesterday. Now, I'm with you. I wish it would go back to East and West. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. In my personal opinion, it's going to be USA versus the world for the next 2 years, because remember, the Olympics will take place in Los Angeles in the next 2 years. And what a way to promote the game of basketball being a global sport and just promote USA versus the world for the next couple of years until the Olympics take place.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, stay around with you as we recap All-Star, the All-Star game and All-Star weekend. We'll do the All-Star weekend after we come back from break. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, I would yearn for the days for East versus West, but again, that's not going to happen, like you said, because of the fact that Adam Silver wants to make this a global sport. And look, we see some of the top players are from outside the U.S. So I think folks need to kind of realize and kind of just, adjust to it as they go. And I think the All-Star, recap and such, I mean, it was fun. There was some intensity. Folks were playing defense. So that's really all you can say about that. So, yeah, I thought it wasn't as bad. I think, when we talk about the All-Star Saturday night, I think you could probably say that was probably some entertainment and such. But I thought the games were fine. I mean, there was some intensity. There was folks that guys were actually playing. I'm sure Wemby was upset when they his team lost. But yeah, I think it was a solid. It was good for what it was. I mean, I'm not expected to to decide home or court throughout in the NBA finals. We don't want that. Baseball tried that years ago. That didn't work. People hated it. So I think just look, I've been saying for like the last 3 years, add some cash incentives. Add, like 500,000 or something like that, or have a sponsor come in and say, look, we'll give the winning team, 100,000 each for to give their favorite charities or what have you. So I think, or in stocks and bonds or whatever. So I would say like make it a little bit more intuitive for guys to want to actually play hard. And we saw that a little bit of that yesterday.
I know that many people have been saying for the last several years that make it competitive, not necessarily Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which we know that the rest of the regular season, the guys, that's more important. And guys had to get prepared for it. But make it competitive, make it act like you give a damn, and that's what every single last one of those All-Star players did yesterday. They acted like they gave a damn. They put on a great show for the fans, and shout out to Noah Eagle, who filled in nicely for Mike Tirico, who's over at the Italy for the Olympics. It was him, Jamal Crawford, and Reggie Miller. They both, all three of those gentlemen carried the day as far as the broadcast is concerned for NBC. They did a great job. Shout out to Ashley Shadahadamadi and Miss Zora Stevenson. They both did a great job on the sidelines, doing not just during the game yesterday, but during All-Star Saturday. As we told you guys over the summer that that All-Star weekend was going to take place in the middle of the afternoon because of the Winter Olympics. NBC recognize that that's a more important event, and plus they paid a hell of a lot of money for it, so they'll get their money's worth. Plus, it brings more ratings in than the NBA at this point in time. But as far as the actual game itself, yesterday, LaKeena, I was very proud. Am I going to sit here and say that was the greatest All-Star game I've ever seen? No, we talked about that on the show last Friday. But for what has been lacking over the last 6-7 years, this was better than what I thought. Now, can the NBA build on this for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? We'll see. But yesterday, it gets a B plus C minus grade from me as far as the actual All-Star game. The fourth game was a rout. RIP Les Grobstein. But All-Star Sunday was very good in most parts. It was better than what I thought. Because LaKeena, how many times I set up on this show the last 2, 3, 4 years and said, I was just interested in the All-Star game. I turned away from it. I didn't give a damn what the announcers had to say. It was that bad. But yesterday, it was above average. It was tolerable, and the games were very competitive. So if you're an NBA fan that like your All-Star games to be competitive like we do, you should be very satisfied with what happened yesterday.
We're gonna take a really quick break. Of course, we'll do the All-Star Saturday night stuff as well. We'll even do a little bit of what do you want to do after that? So you want to do some we'll do some baseball too with the Dakota winning predictions.
We'll do that kicking off hour number 2. Yeah, we'll do that kicking off hour number 2. We'll do All-Star Saturday, and then we'll talk about a little bit what to expect in the second half of the year.
All right, so more NBA talk coming up right after this. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, this is Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. If you listen to us for the first time on President's Day, welcome. Tell your friends about us, and we'll talk more NBA coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here.
Ouch. And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch. You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops. Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
All right. Well, all right. Welcome back to Second Seed Sports on Sports Social Chicago. You can follow Mac.
Right. If you want to follow Yoshili on the Twitter, X, and the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee. You
Zero.
you follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG. All right. Thanks. Sid's internet is all right. I see Sid's internet is acting up. So we're gonna go right into to talk about NBA All-Star Saturday night here on Second Seed Sports on Sports Social Chicago. We'll start with the 3-point contest here. Damian Lillard, who actually signed back to Portland, hasn't played since, of course, he has a torn Achilles right now. He actually came in and off of surgery and actually came back to win a 3-point contest, and this is his third time winning it. And so what did you think? Because that was just a crazy. That was probably one of the better of all the All-Star Saturday night festivities out there, in Inglewood. Of course, what do you think about the 3-point about the performance from Dame? Sid's having trouble with his internet here once again. But yeah, I thought it was actually a lot of fun. It was a nice little battle between him and Dame.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
His performance was very good. Of course, Damian Lillard, as we talked about on the show last week that he didn't really need to run down the floor very much because I know he suffered from the and then the next couple of shooters follow suit. It got kind of stale for a little while, but once the Damian's turn came to the guys, my guy Jamal Murray, who I thought was going to win the contest, he didn't play. He only scored 18 points back 30 plus years ago.
Yeah, that was he joins a pretty good list there. 3-time NBA 3-point shooting contest winners. That was actually a really good final between him and Devin Booker. Now in the shooting stars round, now of course they've changed the format again. They teamed up 2 current players with 1 legend, and and it was a Team Knicks squad led by Jalen Brunson, Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, and former Nick Allen Houston. It was between them and Team Cameron. Corey McGee showed that he still got a little bit of hops. For someone who's in his mid 50s, they got to the 40. They got to 45 points, but a couple of long distance range from the old guy, Allen Houston, of course. Rick Brunson, of course, Jalen's dad, helped out with the passes there, but it was actually a pretty entertaining shooting stars competition.
Yeah, I thought Chicago's very show he is and how old we are as well, but I thought that the Team Knicks actually won it. LaKeena, like you said, they enjoyed that contest for those shooting stars, bringing in a current player, in a legend, passing it down for generation. Enjoyed that event again. Hopefully, the NBA can bring that back. But like we said about the All-Star game yesterday, that event was shocking and surprising to me, but it was very competitive. At least attempt 1 shot from each side of the court. Each basket they made, it was worth a certain amount of points. It was worth more points when they stepped further out. But I don't know about you, LaKeena, but Anthony Anderson, what kind of passer he was, a celebrity passer. His passes were on the mark in that final round. I don't know about you, but that was kind of proud of your boy for making those crisp passes, just like the Hang Time TV show he did on NBC, which coincidentally enough back in the day. So Anthony Anderson gets a 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah, well, 2 thumbs down to Broski, who I don't know what the heck kind of passes he was throwing to. Those passes, I think that that was just like, yes. I know you used to hoop back in the day, but come on, you could have crisper passes than that, but whatever.
Yeah. So like I said, that event was good. Hopefully they bring that back. I don't know about you, LaKeena. Maybe it's just me, but I remember when this event started. I think 20. I really didn't miss that at all. I know they try to modify that for the last few years, but I don't know about you, but I didn't miss that at all.
Now wait, what was that? Say you went out for your signal went out for a second. What was that? You were talking about the dunk contests?
Okay, it was back in the day. It was the the 989 sports skills competition that featured the top 23 years ago in Atlanta.
Yeah.
that All-Star weekend. They had to go through this obstacle course and all that,
Oh
the
yeah, I
dribble,
remember that. Yeah.
bounce pass and all that. Remember that event?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they didn't do that event this year because I thought it would, I thought it was actually probably one of the funner events of the All-Star set. Excuse me, the All-Star Sunday night, but I guess they felt that this will be a little bit more entertaining, and it was. I mean, to their credit, though, having it make up like you said, be like two current players and a legend from that team. The Harpers, didn't do as well as I thought they would. Ron and his two kids, but but it was actually a really cool event. Now, the last but least, or not least, however you want to say it, is the
You
the
listen
dunk.
to Second City Sports Zone Chicago. Oh, go ahead, again.
No, reset. It's time for reset anyway.
Chicago City, LaKeena here with you. Just recapping All-Star Saturday from with you the Slam Trophy for 2026. It was him, Jace, J-A-S-E Richardson for the Orlando Magic, of course. Uh, um, hurt himself, hitting his head on the floor. And Jackson Hayes, I thought, had a couple of good dunks, but he failed to qualify for the final round. But uh, until at best, but if Carter Bryant would have made his final dunk attempt in that final round, I thought the slam dunk contest would have been, back up there, but not yet. But overall, I thought the slam dunk contest was slightly above average.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't terrible. I know some people say, "Oh, it was awful," like this and that. But I think Kashawn Johnson, I think got more points for his dances and his dunks. I think, but but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean,
I really love
but
his energy.
it's really really good energy and such. But I would rather that the guys that were judging, yes, even Dr. J and his bad hip and knees, I probably would have rather those guys. Guys like him, Dwight Howard, Vince Carter, Brett Barry. He actually had his jacket on that when he won the. I talked about that on Friday when Barry won his in '96. He actually had. Well, I think he got hot, so I think he had to take it off. But I would have rather those guys try to dunk. But I thought they were really. I don't want to say. I thought they were fair with the scoring. But like I said, you were going to get guys. I think there were a couple guys that did try to jump over. Somebody, it didn't work. You were going to get the Blake Griffin where he jumped over Kia. That wasn't going to happen either. So. The blindfold thing with Sergio Gonzalez back in '92. So it was fine. Like it wasn't the worst, but not gonna say it was the best, but it wasn't the worst either. So it is what it was.
I will say this about the creativity of those four dunkers from Saturday night. Uh, it, it's been lacking for the last few years outside of Matt McClung winning 3 in a row. I think the creativity has been lost over the had me out my seat a few times. So the NBA, even though the NBA can maybe we can build off this momentum momentum going into uh, next year, where the All Star game is at Phoenix. But the ones that were in there, they did a heck of a job.
Yeah, they really did. The presentation of it was really good, and I know some people are looking at the crowd or lack thereof out there in the Intuit Dome and such. But like I said, we'll see what happens next year. I mean, you don't have to worry. NBC doesn't have to worry about the Olympics, so it might still be back in prime time. We'll see. But I wonder, like the whole thing, with the time starts and stuff, folks were acting of little silly with that. I want to follow our new buddy. Of course, he worked for KTLA in the NBC affiliate out there. He's now with California Post Sports. Michael Duarte. He had some great shots from all of All-Star Weekend. He was out there at the Intuit Dome, and he got some really cool moments and stuff. Even there were a lot of celebrities out there. Of course, Queen Latifah. She was there. Former President Mrs. Obama. They were there too, and President Obama actually did an interview with Reggie Miller, of course, where he did threw a little shade about, of course, the various meetings with the Bulls and the Pacers during the '90s and early 2000s. He kind of ripped him a little bit for that. That was a pretty funny moment. You saw John Tesh do a live version of Round Ball Rock, the more edited version for the 2000s. So yeah, well, I think it was a really good time had by y'all, and I think, look, if for people who are expecting the All-Star festivities and such, so for Los Angeles, I thought it was a really solid weekend all around for everyone involved. So kudos to those folks that put together a great All-Star weekend out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so 2 thumbs up to John Tesh for performing Round Ball Rock during the introductions of the All Stars. You gotta love it, celebrating the NBA on NBC's return to the air, not just to the All Star game, but to the regular season as well. And you gotta love former President Barack Obama. Despite which is 8-year stay at the White House, he is a true basketball fan. And when Reggie Miller brought up, asked the question, who's beating the Pacers in the '98 finals, of course, he taught this shot over past Michael Jordan in the East. I can respect for you a little bit, but you can tell that President Obama is still a basketball fan. And he did drop some knowledge for the folks at home. So that interaction between him and
Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. Probably one of the funny, definitely one of the more funny moments over there out there. So yeah, so a really solid All-Star weekend by the folks there. Of course, like you said, so we'll see what happens next week at in Phoenix, as it will be at the Mortgage Matchup Center where the Suns play all the festivities and stuff next year. So it'll be from the February 19th to the 21st. So it'll be the 76th annual All-Star game. That'll be on Sunday. We'll see if they keep this makeup of the Team US versus the world, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think a very solid All-Star weekend for everybody involved. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we start to wrap up the hour, finishing up our basketball power hour, if you will. Now, as far as the second half of the season, which starts on Thursday, the Bulls will play Toronto. Toronto's right there in the thick of it in the top 6 in the Eastern Conference standings. I think I know Cleveland, they had a 5-game winning streak going into the break. The Pistons are at the top. The Celtics are right behind them. The Knicks, the Cavs, the Raptors, and the Sixers. Those are your top 6. And then you've got Orlando, Miami, Charlotte, and Atlanta. That's your 7 through 10. The Bulls, meanwhile, are a game and a half back from Atlanta. So, Sid, where do you see the East as we go into the second half of the season?
It's going to be interesting to see, if, as you mentioned, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, they picked up James Harden in exchange for Darius Garland at the trade deadline. Will Donovan Mitchell and James Harden work together? That's going to be the number one question for that Cavaliers here. We know that James Harden is a dangerous scorer. He's been a playmaker also as well for the last couple of years. Will him and Donovan Mitchell coexist? And will Evan Mobley stay healthy and be more consistent like he was a couple years ago before the injury bug hit him? So those are the two factors I'm looking at for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. For the Detroit Pistons, they had the best record in the Eastern Conference. Will they be able to keep that up? I know they picked up a couple of shooters at the trade deadline, including former Bull Kevin Herter, who's really going to help them out a lot, especially with your guy Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duran, who had a nice performance in his All-Star debut yesterday. So I'm looking at that factor for Detroit. Now, as far as the bottom of the Eastern Conference for the Bulls, I know the Tankathon is on. I think they're on the current 5 or 6 game losing streak after this live broadcast. It's going to be the who's who for the Chicago Bulls from now to the end of the regular season. Maybe they mess around and get and get to the play-in once again with no expectations. We don't know, but Billy Donovan, the Bulls head coach, has a tough task on his hands. Maybe that's him right now. We can give you some pointers after we get off the show, but for the Chicago Bulls, is a who's going to stay, who's going to go for next year. We'll see how hard that these guys will play for Billy Donovan. The one team that I'm really concerned about is the Boston Celtics. I know they picked up Nikolai Vucevic at the trade deadline from Chicago. I think he's going to give them some help inside. Kristaps Porzingis, I should say, that he struggled because of injuries for Boston over the last couple of years. That's why he's in Golden State. I think Vucevic fills in that role very well. Jaylen Brown, who's number 2 in my opinion, in candidate for MVP, he's having a breakout year. And let's not forget about Kevin Pritchard, who not Kevin Pritchard, Mike Pritchard, who won the NBA Sixth Man of the Year last year. He's filled in. Was that?
No, just say Mike Pritchard. That's what you meant to say.
Yeah, Mike Pritchard. Yeah, he won Sixth Man of the Year last year. He's filled in nicely for Jason Tatum. Maybe that's Joe Mazzulla calling me right now, correcting myself. I apologize, but he filled in. He's filling in nicely for Jason Tatum in that starting lineup. I know Jason Tatum has returned to the practice floor. When will he come back? Will the Celtics give him enough time to get his feet wet in time for a potentially a long playoff run? We'll see about that. But Boston has really gotten their act together over the last month or so. So I'm watching out for those 4 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are going to be interested to see. I know they got a pretty decent schedule. I know they play the Bulls a couple of times in the second half, so that we'll see what happens with that. But I think Detroit. I think there might be a shot that they may catch Detroit. If I had to pick between one of these teams, the Cavs, they got to stay healthy. Toronto could be one of those surprise teams. We'll see, and even the Sixers as well. Maybe Maxey may have to carry the team on his back with PG being out, suspended. We'll see what happens there. Orlando could be another fascinating team that might make a move to that top 6. Excuse me. Miami, you got to think they'll be right there too to get in that top 5 or 6. So I think there's still a lot to be decided in that little mid-tier of the Eastern Conference. So, but it should be very fascinating to see. I think the East is very much wide open, I feel like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So we talked about the top teams in that Eastern Conference. One team that I forgot to point out, and that's the Charlotte Hornets. Hopefully they get Kobe White back healthy, who's been dealing with hamstring issues all year long. Going back to him being being a member of the Chicago Bulls. Remember, Lonzo Ball's little brother, LaMelo Ball, is having a nice year. He's been healthy for the most part. Brandon Miller, second-year man out of Alabama, he's been healthy more so this year than his rookie year last year. And adding Kobe White to the mix. Let's not forget about Miles Bridges as well. They got a nice young core in Charlotte, and most of that roster has been healthy for the most part all year. So they can definitely make a run as far as getting to the play-in tournament. Will they knock on the door at the top 6? I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be an interesting young.
Real quick as we go into the Western Conference part, like I said, I mean, of course, OKC, everyone's chasing OKC, although the Spurs are right there, they're breathing down their neck at 3 games back. Denver, the Jokic track, maybe they could get into a little bit of run. Houston, we'll see. I mean, they could be a little bit iffy at times. The Lakers, Minnesota, they won a couple in a row thanks to Io. I think Io has been a great asset for the T-Wolves thus far. Phoenix is an interesting team to watch out for too. Golden State, but Steph's got to get back on the floor. I think that's really going to be the key. Portland and the Clippers. I mean, I think it's going to be between those 10, and I think it's going to be dependent on the order which it goes. I mean, some team could go from the top 5 all the way down to the play-in. That's just how the Western Conference is. I know the Clippers. They're going to be an interesting team to watch out for. Portland as well. So yeah, that's a lot of. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the Western Conference before it's all said and done.
Yeah, just a couple of teams to focus on real quick. The Los Angeles Lakers, yes, they picked up Luke Kennard at the trade deadline. It gives LeBron James an extra shooter out there. But DeAndre Ayton, who they picked up during the offseason, he has to play better. He had a nice start to the year, but I'm not going to sit here and say he looks disinterested, but he's struggling right now. So he needs to pick it up. That whole team needs to pick it up, especially at the defensive end. And number 3, Luka Doncic has to stay healthy. You notice he didn't play that much at the All-Star game yesterday. The Denver Nuggets, speaking of injuries, Nikola Jokic has to stay healthy. They need to get Aaron Gordon back. They need to get Bruce Brown back. And Jamal Murray, who made his All-Star debut yesterday, he needs to stay healthy. He missed some games during the first half of the year. If Denver can stay, our season preview show back in October, I'd like them to come out of the West and possibly challenge the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now with the San Antonio Spurs, and I think I said this too the last couple weeks, Mitch Johnson, the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, nice to see him in the All-Star game. Cast around with De'Aaron Fox and some of the other young guys with Stefan Castle as well. So the young San Antonio Spurs team, they're giving OKC many problems this year. As I said before, and I'll say it one more time, should San Antonio and OKC meet in this year's playoffs, it's going to be one hell of a war, because that's OKC's kryptonite as far as this year's concerned. Outside of injuries, it's the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio has beat them, I believe, in all 4 meetings so far this year, including the play-in tournament.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Real quick, the schedule for Thursday, real quick, as they'll be back in action at that time. Houston and Charlotte, Brooklyn and Cleveland, Atlanta and Philadelphia, Indiana and Washington. A fascinating one here is the first game of the Prime Video doubleheader. You got Detroit and the Knicks. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the Bulls host Toronto. Phoenix and San Antonio, that should be a good one. And the good one here, we'll see if Steph will be able to play this one as the second game of the Prime Video doubleheader, as the Warriors host Boston as they continue out on the East Coast, Orlando and Sacramento. And a good one here to finish off, Denver and the Clippers to finish off the schedule for Thursday.
Schedule for Friday looks like this. Cleveland will visit Charlotte. Indiana will visit Washington. Utah will visit Memphis. Atlanta will host Miami. The first game of the Friday night ESPN doubleheader will feature the Dallas Mavericks at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's see if Dallas rookie Cooper Flag will be available for that one. Other games for Friday are as follows. Milwaukee will visit New Orleans. Brooklyn will face OKC. The Clippers and the Lakers will be the second half of that Friday night doubleheader for ESPN. And finish out the Friday schedule, Denver will visit the surprising and surging Portland Trail Blazers.
Should be a lot of fun there. Hour number 1. Well, that's because for the next couple of days, the NBA returns to start the second half of the season. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports. On Sports Zone Chicago, we'll have the Bacola rankings for baseball as spring training is in full swing. Some NFL news. We got to have some NFL here going, as one team is clearing up cap space, releasing a couple of all pros. We'll talk about that. Could one of them be a good fit for the Bears? We'll see. Also, Olympic update. Olympic updates, and Michael Jordan gets another title to add to his resume. A long drought is broken for PGA Tour star, and Old School TV Monday. All that and so much more. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More fun and on number 2 coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday Extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
Kick it off hour number 2. We'll dive into baseball, both the Cubs and Sox, and so much more. And we got to get in the pigskin NFL style for this half hour. So if you have any questions and comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Spring training's in full swing as there will be games starting this week, starting on Thursday. As it's going to be interesting to see how both these teams look. Seeing batting practices always gets you exciting for games and such. The games will start on Friday as the Cubs and Sox will play each other, and Pacoda, of course, around this time. they released their win projections, and of course, they used metrics and stuff like that. They actually got, of course, the well, I don't think anybody is not surprised that what team they got winning the most. That is the Dodgers. They got win 104, which I don't know if that's going to be the case. But I think they'll probably win that division again with all the signings. Kyle Tucker, so the big signings the big signings that they have. Now they got the Cubs winning 90, and they've got Atlanta just in the NL East. They got them winning about 90, 91. That's around the range. The AL East, they've got Toronto just edging out the Yankees. It'll be between those two teams. That's what they're saying. The AL Central, they actually got Kansas City. Okay, interesting. And they got Detroit. Despite we got Terry School, they brought Justin Verlander back. They got Seattle winning 93, and they got the White Sox winning just under 70, 69.6 as of how we're recording. We're recording this. So the Cubs is always interesting standings to look at. So we'll see what the USA Today standings. I know those come out within the next few days. So we'll talk about that on Friday. But it's kind of funny how Bakota has some of these rankings in the standings.
Let's focus on both of our local teams first. So starting with your Cubs, projected 90 wins. I think that sounds about right. They won 92 games last year, going to the playoffs as a wild card, of course, winning the wild card round over San Diego before falling to Milwaukee in 5 games in the division series. Matthew Boyd, the starting pitcher who won 14 games last year, newcomer Alex Bregman said that the attitude around the Cubs clubhouse after the first week of workouts of spring training, if you're not here to win the World Series, and then just paraphrase, go work in another locker room. And you could tell for all the interviews, I don't know if you've been watching them from this past weekend, from Craig Counsell through the players that were on this team last year, that that series lost to Milwaukee still stuns them. And I know the Cubs didn't fully complete the comeback from trailing 0-2 in that series last year. Some of those players felt that they left a little something on the table. So that's a great motivating factor of coming into this year. For the Cubs, like you said, Jed Hoyer, along with the Ricketts family, finally woke up and said, hey, you have an opportunity here to go win a World Series. We saw what the Milwaukee Brewers did in capturing the division for the last 2-3 years, and you need to get past them. And this is something good for the Cubs to keep themselves alert and keep themselves on edge, and bringing in a veteran like Alex Bregman, who's been there before with the Houston Astros winning the title. I know he was there with Boston last year, even though he not participated in their playoff series last year against the New York Yankees. A veteran like that is going to help some of these young guys. Him and PCA are already becoming best friends, and some of the guys on the pitching staff are starting to bond already. I don't know if you heard Justin Steele's interview last Saturday on 670 Scores Inside the Clubhouse, but he was talking about how the chemistry on this team is really starting to gel already. Unfortunately, Justin Steele is not going to be a part of the team when it heads up north to start the year later on next month, because he's rehabbing from an injury that he suffered around this time last year. So the Cubs are saying all the right things. They're doing all the right things. Spring training is going to be interesting to see who's going to be in prime position to take up some of those backup spots, because most of the starting positions for this Cubs team is filled. Now, the question is, who's going to be your starting right fielder? Is it going to be Matthew Shaw, who was your starting third baseman a year ago? Will it be Moises Ballesteros? I don't think, as I said all off season, I still say it again right now, it can't be Seiya Suzuki full time, because his defense has been lacking over the last few years. You cannot afford to have that. So is it going to be Ballesteros? Is it going to be Matthew Shaw? Or will it be somebody else that they taste the ball by the horse? We shall see. But I think that's a couple of things you need to look out for this Cubs team. And let's not forget, they are built on starting pitching. Outside of Justin Steele starting the year on a rehab assignment, you still have guys like Shota Imanaga, who still has to prove himself. You still have James Taillon, who bounced back nicely after that shoulder injury last year. And let's not forget, you had Cade Horton last year coming out of nowhere as a rookie. Remember, he didn't play in the playoffs last year. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. If Cade Horton would have been healthy, you probably would have got past Milwaukee, but that's neither here or there. He's back fully healthy to start his second year campaign as a member of the Chicago Cubs. So the Cubs have all the pieces in place. The question is, can they stay healthy, and can the offense be more consistent? Unlike at times last year, they started off hot, they cooled off, they started it up again after the All-Star break, and they cooled down once again. So can the Cubs be more consistent, especially offensively during this year, barring any major injuries? We shall see.
Now, for me, I think, as far as the Cubs are concerned, I'm glad that that Craig Counsell announced that Daniel Palencia will be the closer. I think that definitely helps because they really didn't have a closer. I would say it was a closer by committee, but they had one guy, for a couple of games, and they brought in another guy, coming in. So the fact that they got Palencia, who had 225 saves last year, and I think that that he was also a big part of what the Cubs got as far as they did in the playoffs. I think having that will answer that question for that. I love what they bring to the table right now with the with the with Bregman, and he's looked really good in batting practice. And like you said, him and PC are already gelling, which is really, I have to say that's really what's got me. I think that should get Cubs fans excited as well. So I know Justin Steele, I know he's a little bit upset that he's not good part of that right now, but he's just concentrate on getting healthy and getting better. So maybe before the end of spring, going into early summer, he can probably be right there to in on the fun and such. Now, as far as the first, look, you got Matt Shaw, who could probably do versatile, that could do both center and infield. So maybe we have to pull him around and such. Seiya really isn't really he's still a fielder, but it's gonna be interesting to see what he does with that. But yeah, I think you kind of feel like they may make another move before the end because you still got a lot of free agents out there. We'll see, but yeah, I kind of, if you're a Cubs fan, you gotta be feeling really good about where they're at right now. Now, as far as the White Sox are concerned, look, I know they've got the Pocona hasn't winning not even 70 games, but you gotta look. There's gonna be a lot of offense. I think that's really gonna be the thing here. Braden Montgomery has looked really good so far. Mendemi, Murakami, Maneka Murakami, he's looked really good so far. He's been hitting the ball lights out as well. So I think for the White Sox, I think you gotta have to feel like pretty good about what you're seeing right now, especially for the White Sox.
Yeah, just wrap it up on the Cubs for just a second. Daniel Palencia, like you said, he had over 25 saves last year. Remember, he struggled in the month of August before he got injured with over his 6.5 ERA for the month, but did come back in the playoffs, and he did very well in his middle relief role. So we'll see how well he can bounce back and be the closer for the entire year. Now, going to the White Sox, you mentioned Moody Murakami. He's been the story there in spring training as expected for this White Sox team. I know there's 15 or so media members from the Japanese market covering him for this spring training. Remember, he still has another week, I believe, before he leaves for that, in my opinion, the big waste of time of the World Baseball Classic. But he's been very impressive in the batting cage, not only there, but also on the field as well, fielding ground balls, because he's going to play first base for the majority of the time, maybe a platoon at times at first base. But you take a look at guys like Colson Montgomery, Chase Maidrov, and Miguel Vargas being at third base, and looking at that lineup, this White Sox team should produce some runs. Now, Luis Angel Acuna, we'll see what he does in center field. They'll tell your GM Chris Getz that he's a switch hitter, because the last time I checked, he's not, and that was a big mistake by Getz. But outside of that, you like his versatility. I'm talking about Acuna not as a switch hitter, but as a defender. He could play in the infield like he was doing with the New York Mets the last couple of years, and he could play the outfield as well. So we'll see what he brings in. Austin Hayes, as I talked about a couple of weeks ago during Sox Fest, he's a veteran outfielder that can definitely give some occasional pop in lineup. He's been with some winning organizations. He was with Baltimore when they were starting to come up a few years ago. Of course, he was with the Cincinnati Reds that qualified for the playoffs last year before they got swept by the Dodgers in that wild card series. So I believe that he's a placeholder. I'm talking about Austin Hayes until Braden Montgomery hopefully comes up this year if he makes it up through the ranks of the minor leagues. And over at left field, LaKeena, Can we get the last of the Rick Hahn stank off this roster by getting rid of Andrew Benintendi, because that's not good. He's an old outfielder. He was starting to get hurt last year. I think he's going to platoon between him and Lenny Sosa for being in the DH role. Let's not forget about Edgar Carroll as well, the backup catcher. So there's going to be three guys battling for that designated hitter spot. So Chris gets his work is not done, but we'll see what happens. His competition is stiff all over the place for the White Sox. If you manage your real Venable, this is what you want. I want the best guys out there when we're going to face the Milwaukee Brewers to open the season on Thursday, March 26th.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the thing if you're Venable. I think here you like what you're seeing. You'll have options in various positions and such. So, 69? I mean, that might be a little low. I would say, for the White Sox, maybe 70, 72. If they can get to 70, get to 70 to 72, I think that would be a big. That would probably be a big. That would probably be like a big, exceeding expectations. So I think this White Sox is going to be fun to watch as they were last year at times. They've got close, they've got pitching. So we'll see what happens there. Listen to Second City Sports. On Sports in Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you, talking some baseball here as the first slate of spring training games will be on Friday. Now, as far as the rest of the MLB predictions, I think if you're the Dodgers, unless I don't want to put that out there, but look, you brought on Kyle Tucker, you brought on Abanez, you brought Kike Hernandez. I really don't see anybody beating the Dodgers in the NL West. So, as long as everybody stays healthy for the most part, I know Mookie Betts said he wants to make history. I think they can, very much do that. But I kind of like how they set up last year, that they had to fight to get to the to win that division. They were able to get set for the playoffs and stuff. So I think that was probably how they wanted to do that. Now the AL. Now I will say that the AL is going to be interesting because Baltimore. Remember, Pete Alonso's over there now. I'm looking forward to seeing what they could probably do. Maybe they get a bounce. They can have a bounce back year. Seattle. Look, I know Seattle, it could be another one of those teams where they could probably perhaps maybe, get back into that far in the ALCS. We'll see what happens there. Toronto's going to be an interesting team to look out for. Do they have the World Series, hangover, if you will, the runner-up World Series hangover? We've seen that over the years. Detroit, I mean, look, Detroit's interesting because they've got, some of the Pocono stands, they've got Detroit going in second to Kansas City. Kansas City is going to be one of those teams where it's going to be fascinating to watch. Now, could I see Kansas City perhaps improving? Yes, because, they missed the playoffs last year. But overtaking Detroit, I don't think so. Because remember, Brave Valdez is over there now. They brought back Justin Verlander. He's back there now. Of course, you got Scoople. Who knows what's going to happen once the contract stuff, they always had to go off for trades. They had to pay all that money. But Detroit's going to be an interesting team for me. What about you when it comes to all of MLB?
Oh, yeah. I think Tariq Skubal is going to leave no matter what. But the question is when. WHEN, when. If Detroit, remember last year, Detroit got out to that big lead in the division. Of course, the Cleveland Guardians caught up with them and took the division away from them last year in September. Detroit went in the playoffs via the wild card. But like you said, with Detroit, it's going to be interesting because Tariq Skubal is a dependent free agent after this year. If Detroit gets out to another start close to what they did last year, I think he stays for the whole year unless he comes out publicly and says, I don't want to be here anymore. But I think if Detroit gets out to another nice start, I think Tariq Skubal stays and Detroit's chances of winning that division will increase that much more. But if Detroit gets off to a shaky start or one of the worst starts, heaven forbid for them in their franchise to get out to a bad start, and the Tariq's days as a Tiger are numbered that much shorter. Now, you mentioned with Justin Verlander, he brings in that veteran experience. He doesn't have much life. He's no spring chicken anymore, but he's a guy that can fill in innings for you. You mentioned Framber Valdez. I know he's been injured over the last couple of years when he's with Houston, but when he's healthy, he's one of the best underrated left-handers in the game in terms of starting pitching. So Detroit has that starting pitching intact, but that offense, which started off hot last year, cooled off. You saw it again in the playoffs, cool off against your Seattle Mariners. Now, the one team that I do want to talk about is the Cleveland Guardians. The Emmanuel Clase situation, I don't know if he's going to pitch ever again because of that gambling situation. I know that they survived that. excuse me, in the last month of the season last year to take that division away from the Detroit Tigers, but they really didn't make any big moves this all season. Minnesota, I'm looking at the projected standings right now for Dakota, 79 wins. I don't know about you, LaKeena, but uh, Byron Buxton's still there. You still have a couple other veterans still there, but they're in a rebuild mode, just like the White Sox, and I don't see Minnesota winning that many games. I don't know what some of those people are smoking. Like I said, I don't know what they're looking at, but we'll see what happens. But you mentioned Kansas City will be interesting because, like you said, they barely missed the playoffs last year at 81 and 81. Coming off a year that they qualified the playoffs from the year before when they lost to the Yankees in that wild card round. So the AL Central could be interesting. I know some people may have the White Sox as the surprise team, in which I kind of agree, but as of right now, I do not see the White Sox bringing up the rear. If the White Sox young guys continue to improve and get better and not be big-headed, I think they can finish high as third. I'm not predicting that. We'll give our predictions out when the season starts. But if the White Sox do not have any major setbacks in terms of injuries or underperformance from their core guys, I think they can finish third in that division. I really do.
Yeah, I think they can. I think they, like you said, I think if they can avoid injuries, if guys could exceed some of the expectations, if Murakami, I think if he can be what I'm sure a lot of White Sox fans are hoping he will be, and the pitching's actually decent for the most part, I think they could definitely be in fourth place or third place. I would say maybe the ceiling's third. I would say I don't think they'll be last place like they've been the last couple of years. We'll see. Now the AL West, I know Bacota's got Seattle running away with it. I don't think that's going to be the case. Houston's going to be an interesting team, and I think Texas will as well. I think those are going to be the two teams that I think that might give Seattle a run if they can avoid any major injuries. That might be the thing here. The NL East, like I said, if Atlanta, last year Atlanta, there were there were too many injuries for Atlanta. They were done for even before the All-Star break. Once Acuna was out and such, so all those guys are back now. Wondering, can they all stay healthy? That's really going to be the key for me when it comes to Atlanta. Philadelphia, I know they had to get rid of Castellanos. Google's your friend if you want to find out what happened there. But I mean, Philadelphia could be interesting one. I mean, I know they brought on Garcia, so they definitely need for their right field. And I know they made a couple other moves as well. Philadelphia could probably be there. Now the Mets, they're always going to be on the Mets, I think, because look, I think a lot of people are thinking that Mets could probably perhaps maybe win the NL East this year. So that's going to be the thing. It's going to be between those three teams as usual. And it's going to be a fascinating watch there.
Yeah, as I said during this offseason, I think the Atlanta Braves will be back, provided that Ronald Acuna Jr. will be healthy for the entire season. Brian Snitker, their former manager, I believe he's working in the front office now. Walt Weiss, former one-time Atlanta Brave from that 1999 World Series team that lost to the Yankees, he's their manager now. So Atlanta has some new blood there. Don't forget they had Chris Sale, who's injured part of last year too. So he's coming back healthy this year. The New York Mets, they're trying to build their team like the Milwaukee Brewers, pitching and defense. Of course, they acquired La Pantera, a.k.a. Luis Robert Jr., from the Chicago White Sox last month to solidify that outfield. If he stays healthy, we saw what he can be, what he could be in like we saw in 2023, over 30 home runs and close to 100 RBIs. So hopefully, if you're a New York Mets fan, you expect that from him. Should he stay healthy? So, and let's not forget their manager. I know that people don't want to talk about too much, but Carlos Mendoza's job may be on the line if the Mets don't get back to the playoffs this year. So, we'll see. We'll have to watch out for that angle. Philadelphia, they brought JT Realmuto back. They lost Ranger Suarez. You mentioned Castellanos as well, who got picked up by San Diego, by the way. So Philadelphia's still interested in. Let's not forget they have Zach Wheeler back, hopefully healthy for a full year. Remember, he missed that playoff run, which in that series they lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers. So it's going to be a hell of a race in the NL East, and we'll see what happens.
All right, you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. We got a couple more minutes left, Sid. Let's talk some NFL. And I know Seattle won the Super Bowl over a week ago, but the NFL news never stops. So I think that's probably why the NFL likes it that way. The Dolphins are cleaning house. They've released 5 players, clearing almost $70 million in cap space. Of course, Tyreek Hill Also, edge rusher Bradley Chubb. Also, James Dales and Nick Westbrook, Kane. Like I said, that clears about 67 million, give or take, over 56 million in cap space for this year. There could be another move that could probably be held until the 11th when the new league starts, March 11th. I should say an additional savings. So so a complete roster reset underway in Miami.
I was thinking about Tyreek Hill in the Chicago Bears uniform. I know he's not going to cost that much, but the Bears have other issues to address. So I don't think that Tyreek Hill is, as far as a number standpoint, that he would fit here in Chicago, because you have to, even if you wanted Tyreek Hill on your team, if you're Ryan Poles, you have to figure out what you're going to do with DJ Moore. We talked about it on the show for the last couple of weeks. It says they lost to the Los Angeles Rams in a divisional round. If DJ Moore gets cut right now, I believe it's close to a $30 million cap hit for the Bears. Even though with the salary cap going up this year to over $300 million, the Bears cannot afford that right now. So as I said before, and I'll remind Bears fans again, if DJ Moore gets traded, that's the only way he's going to be out of here. But if he doesn't get traded between now and the start of training camp, he's going to be here next year for at least one more year as a member of the Chicago Bears. And we're not going to talk about what happened toward the end of that game against the Rams. That's old news now. But DJ Moore is going into the back half of that 4-year, $110 million contract that he signed before the start of the 2024 season. So for at least one more year, if he doesn't get traded, he's going to be a member of the Chicago Bears. I think that's the real reason why Tyreek Hill won't be here. Now with Bradley Chubb, could the Bears use a guy like that? Sure, if he was 8 years younger. But since what I believe he's over 30 years old now, I don't think that he fits what the Bears need. So for the Bears, as far as pass rush is concerned, I think Ryan Poles will look through the draft. I know we brought up Trey Henderson and the trade for Max Crosby on this show before. I think those are two better options. I think the realistic option out of Max Crosby and Trey Henderson would be Trey Henderson. But you brought up this point, and I'll back you up as well, that Trey Henderson's age concerns me in his injury history over the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, Chubb will be 30 in June, so by the time the new season starts, he will be 30. So, but I think he might command a little bit of money. So I think, look, there are other teams that could use their services. Teams like Baltimore, teams like, look, I think he could be a nice little veteran presence with the Rams. Maybe the Chargers. I mean, we'll see. Go back to the AFC West. Remember, he came from Denver. Chubb did, and such. So that could be interesting too. Tyreek Hill. I mean, same thing. I mean, look. I mean, do you want the to come with the baggage that comes with him? We'll see. But that's going to be interesting play there. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, I mean, look, I know someone had, I think someone had a trade. I forgot. I got to look it up, but I forgot who it was. But yeah, I think they had DJ Moore and like a 3rd round pick. You trade to the Raiders for Crosby at a 5th rounder. That's not going to do it. No. Do you really think that the Raiders are going to give, that's all they're going to give? They're going to want at least a 1st or a 2nd rounder for Crosby. And I know Clint Kubiak's trying to be like the diplomatic here. Like he probably learned that from his dad, Gary, from back in the, like he did back in the day. But I can't see, I can't see, Tom Brady. I know he's a minority owner, but I think he'll probably say, look, you better try to keep Crosby here. And if what Jay Glazer's, from Fox Sports is saying is true, that he doesn't want to, that Crosby doesn't want to play there anymore, fine. But again, until we actually hear from the man himself, and remember, he's still recovering from an injury right now, so he's not like he can practice now anyway. So, but yeah, that's going to be interesting too. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, if you're the Raiders, he had the Max Crosby is a hot commodity right now, and you want quote unquote the house because you're rebuilding, you're restarting over. Assuming that they will draft Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of the University of Indiana. Now, you're going to want to put some weapons around Mendoza, and you will eventually have to build that defense. And if you're the Raiders, you need all the 1st round picks you're going to get. I know you're going to start high with some of these teams. Let's not forget, and I heard this last week on another radio station across the country. I believe that the Rams have an extra 1st round pick, so it may not take that much if the Rams want to go out and get Max Crosby as well. So, if the Bears, I'm sure, know this, and other teams know. I know there's about half the league that's interested in Mr. Crosby services. So some of these teams looking at that they're on this list, they have more draft capital than the Chicago Bears. So there's no such thing as 3-team trades in the NFL. So for the Bears, they had to pony up a lot of stuff. Do you really want to mortgage the future? Because you should have DJ Moore on his going into the back half of his 4-year deal that he signed almost 2 years ago now. And let's not forget, in about 2, perhaps maybe 3 years, you're going to have to pay Caleb Williams, perhaps Roma Dunze as well. So if you made this move for Mason Crosby, it may pay dividends on the short term, but long term, that's a risk you have to take. If you're Ryan Post, do you really want to do that right now?
Well, like you said, the Rams.
I know the window's supposedly open, but financially, it's going to get really murky than what it is right now.
Yeah, especially if what that report from Fox says is true, that they're already in the hole right now. I know there's going to be a lot of dead money coming off the books and such. So if you want to bring back guys like Kevin Byard, if you want to, that they may have to get rid of some guys, whether they want to or not. So there's just a lot of parameters here, and the Max Crosby thing, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Should he get traded before the draft? Get a couple months before then, out in Pittsburgh. So I don't know. I mean, that's going to be if like I said, if he gets traded before the draft, talk about Crosby, then they could probably say, okay, maybe that'll happen. But if he doesn't get traded before the draft, then you're going to be a little bit murky here by the fact that will he get traded before training camp? So there's going to be a lot of variables to see what happens when it comes to if Crosby or if Henderson gets signed or if Chubb signs somewhere. So there's a lot of variables and questions that need to be answered still. We got time to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, around the draft, things get tricky. Things get kind of tight and kind of messy around the draft. So I don't think anything is going to happen in terms of trade right now. But like you said, when it gets close to draft time, there's you see a lot of activity, a lot of positioning. So Ryan Poles, he knows that he has a lot of work cut out for him, and we'll see what happens. Like you said, we have plenty of time, less than 90 days before the NFL draft at the end of April. So there's a lot of potential moving parts here for Chicago.
All right, take one more quick break before we disperse here for this President's Day edition of Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. We'll have college hoops as Kylan Boswell's back for Illinois as he helps Illinois get back on track against Indiana. A couple upsets to talk about as well in men's college hoops. Also, your Olympic update. A PGA Tour player broke a long drought, and also. And also too, Michael Jordan adds another title to his resume, and Old School TV Monday. So our Sports Potpourri segment coming up right after this break. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney, Marcus, and Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
Poof.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
sports.
Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the President's Day edition, as LaKeena said it before the break. In our Monday extravaganza, you're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment for this half hour for our last segment of the show for today. So if you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the topics we discussed thus far on today's show, you got to hit us up one last time at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the open screen for you.
All right, a little college hoops action from the weekend. We'll start with yesterday's action. Illinois with a nice bounce back win over Indiana, 75-51. David Merkovic, he had 25 points, which is a season high for him, leading the way for Illinois. There, Keaton Wagler chipped in with 18. Kyler Boswell, his first game back, he had 9 points. But yeah, Illinois doing just enough to beat a team that they were better than after losing their last couple of games.
Yeah, as we talked about on the show last Friday, this is what the doctor ordered for the final line. They lost the last two games, as you mentioned, by tough results, including the one week ago tomorrow, last Tuesday night at home against Wisconsin. A mental breakdown. It's just not pay attention to details, and that's why they lost that one. But yesterday, like you said, that they did just about everything right. They shot the ball well overall at 44%, even though they shot the ball at a 23% clip from three. They still were on the boards offensively, 15-4 in the offensive rebounding department over Indiana, 38-23 overall, at plus 15 overall in the rebounding advantage. As we said before, we'll say it again, LaKeena. I like the way the Illinois rebounds the ball, especially offensively, but they give up just a lot of offensive rebounds, especially to these better teams. That wasn't the case yesterday, but you talked about Colin Boswell making his return to the lineup. I like the way, I'm a big fan of his. I like the way that he runs the team. He takes care of the basketball. He penetrates to the basket. You saw him do that a couple of times yesterday. And when he has it going on like that, he sets up the Illinois offense for the rest of the guys like Keaton Wagler, who doesn't have to have the ball in his hands all the time. He sets up the other guys on the team, like my guy Davis, number 15, who's really a beast from the inside, but he can shoot the ball from the outside. Andre Stojakovic, who didn't play yesterday because of a bad ankle, when he's in there, he's better off with a guy like Colin Boswell running the point. So with Colin Boswell being back, it sets up that much nicely for the rest of the shooters on the team. Colin Boswell can penetrate, and when he gets double teamed, he can kick it out to one of the big men, kick it out to Stojakovic, he can kick it out to Wagler, who is also a penetrator as well, and they could get better quality shots.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Illinois, gonna be interesting to see what happens with them the rest of the way. We got about a month before March Madness. They go off to Los Angeles. I think they're about to leave for Los Angeles as they will be doing the Los Angeles double this week. On Wednesday, they'll face USC, and on Saturday, on Saturday, they'll face UCLA as well. So doesn't get any easier for the Illini. We'll see how they do out there in Los Angeles. A few other scores from the yesterday. Bradley beats SIU in Missouri Valley. Conference action. More Missouri Valley conference action is UIC. Shout out to our buddy Jay Hood from ESPN 1000. They get their 10th win in conference play. They beat Illinois State 83-56. Could they perhaps maybe make a play for that lone bid for the tournament? We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Belmont's the number one team in that conference right now. They took care of business to beat Murray State 87-70. Dayton beat Davidson 8-10 action there as well. And going into Saturday's games, there were a lot of interesting results from Saturday. If my computer can walk. Okay. Oh, Texas Tech with a nice overtime win. I saw this game. They knocked out Arizona from the ranks of the unbeaten, beating them on the road. That's not an easy place to play out there in Tucson. And if you saw the McHale Memorial Center, they were stunned as it was back and forth for a little bit. They were tied at the half. They were tied, going in, and JT Toplin did just enough. Obi's younger brother, 31 points and 13 boards. Christian Anderson kicking in for 19 as Texas Tech knocks Arizona off the ranks of the unbeaten.
Yeah, you know how I like Arizona's point guard Jaden Wilson, if I have his name correctly. He leads the league, leads the NCAA in scoring against top 25 teams this year, over 25.5 points per game. But Texas Tech, as we talked about, I know they won the title a few years ago, but those one of those teams that you really don't want to count out come tournament time, because those teams like that, they could get hot and they can shock some people. One team that I wanted to discuss with you, LaKeena, and they were out of their star Peterson, excuse me, and that was Kansas. They got beat pretty good by Iowa State last Saturday, 74-56. As we said for the last couple of weeks, that the Jayhawks' depth would be tested. It was tested in the previous few games, but they got a rude wake-up call at Iowa State last Saturday.
Yeah, Iowa State got their lick back for what happened out there at Fog Island a few weeks ago. So they got their lick back there. Milan Milovic, who struggled in that game, but he came back 18 points. Excuse me, was 3 for 4 from 3-point range as they got the revenge. Now, as far as Kansas, I mean, yeah, Peterson's got to stay healthy. That's really going to be the thing. If there's other stuff going on, who knows? But I'm not going to get into all that. But yeah, I think I would say that they got their look back, and yeah, it is what it is in the Big 12 now. Michigan, the new number one team in the country, we can say that officially now. They took care of business against UCLA. Houston beat K-State, of course. Also, Jerome Tang's been let go. He got let go yesterday. Might get a little bit legalities here, so we'll see. But that's going to be interesting to see what happens out there. But Houston took care of business against K-State on Saturday. UConn, they got pushed from Georgetown, but they pulled through by 4. Nebraska beats Northwestern. Northwestern, to their credit, though, they stayed with it for a little bit. But Nebraska went into 18-point advantage in the second half, 40-22. They outscored them, beating Northwestern. North Carolina with a nice win. Sans Caleb Wilson taking care of business against Pittsburgh. Gonzaga, they beat Santa Clara. Purdue with a nice win over Iowa. Florida, they're kind of sneaking up on folks, and I think Todd Golden likes it that way. They beat Kentucky. Virginia, Ohio State. And it was a weird late season non-conference, but it was a classic out there in Nashville. So that's why what that is. But St. John's beat Providence. Vanderbilt beats A&M. Arkansas beats Auburn. Colorado needed overtime. They beat Colorado pushed up BYU. BYU needed overtime to beat Colorado by 4. But unfortunately, your guy Richie Saunders tore his ACL. He's out for the year for the Cougars.
Yeah, that's a big blow to that BYU Cougars team. We're talking about AJ DeBonsa being the number one pick the number one pick, potential number one pick for this upcoming draft. They have shooters around him that makes him better. Like I said, Richie Saunders, I talked about on the show for the last couple of weeks. He takes a 3-point shot that he doesn't like it, but BYU is definitely going to miss that. So it's going to have to be other guys who have to step in and step up. I want to discuss this game with you. I saw a couple of highlights of this. Unfortunately, it was marred by negative reaction. Number 17, Rick Pitino's team, St. John's, they beat Providence by 10, but that wasn't a story. The big fisticuffs was the story. 6 players got ejected, and there's a bunch of discipline that was coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, a couple guys were one for each team. I think were suspended. And look, back in the 80s, look, that's what they used to do. Back then, if you guys watch those, the Big East for 30 for 30, that's basically you saw that at least once a game. If you didn't see that was just weird back in the day. So look at those St. John teams with Chris Mullen and Bill Wellington, those Georgetown teams with Ewing in them, and that's pretty much what you saw on Saturday. That was just very weird. And of course, the game got a little bit antsy, and it kind of just everything kind of went all haywire. And good for Coach Teal for taking the high road, saying, look, there was no excuses for that. I paraphrase what he said, but he didn't. Look, I'm sure he got on his guys for all that and such. So, but the St. John's took care of business and did what they had to do at home once everything kind of was sorted through.
I want to go back to the Big Ten. I did see a little bit of this Michigan UCLA game. I thought I was going to get a competitive game, but it turns out Michigan, we really are the big deal. Can you really see a team really beating them in the Big Ten next month? Because they are good, but I still have a sneaky feeling about Michigan State. Illinois, they're good. I don't know just yet. But I think Michigan State will have a chance to really beat Michigan, in my opinion. Everybody else can go and play, in my opinion. What say you?
Yeah, I think, look, Michigan is showing you why they outscored UCLA 46-18. I watched it for a little bit. It was actually competitive. Michigan was only up 1, but they went on a tear for the 3-point line, and they just steamrolled the Bruins in the second half. So could I see perhaps maybe someone beating them in the Big Ten tournament? Yeah, could I see Michigan State or Illinois, or maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know who else else could beat them besides those two. But I mean, Nebraska, maybe, if they can get hot. But it's going to be interesting to see what Michigan does. Could they be the number 1 overall seed, especially with Arizona losing? We'll see. But I think Michigan is definitely the number 1 team in the country. They are actually, as we're recording this now. But it's going to be interesting these next few weeks before we're going to the conference tournament time. So that's going to be the thing here. Now going into this week's games, Duke against Syracuse. That's going to be at 6:00 on ESPN. Big Monday, and shout out to ESPN for doing this. I think this is like the 7th or 8th year they've done this, showcasing HBCUs with Duke Cookman against Jackson State on ESPN2. That's going to be at 6:00 for that one. Houston and Iowa State. That's going to be the capper of Big Monday on ESPN. That should be a good one. Yes, I can't wait. That should be a fun one. 2 different styles of teams, and we'll see. 1st to 60, I think we'll win this game. I think tonight.
I think we're going to have a little bit of a higher scoring affair in that game, so we'll see what happens there. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the games are as follows, just the important games. And speaking of Michigan, the number 1 team in the country, they'll travel to West Lafayette to face number 7 Purdue. That's at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Peacock. Definitely looking forward to that one. I think that's on NBC Sports Network as well. Number 12, Florida will host South Carolina. That's at 6 p.m. on SEC Network. North Carolina will face NC State at the same time on ESPN. St. Louis will face Rhode Island on ESPN+. Speaking of Michigan State, they'll host UCLA at 7:30 p.m. This is for Tuesday on Peacock at NBCSN. Number 24, Wisconsin. They'll travel to Ohio State to face the Buckeyes at 7:30 on FS1. I think this is an elimination game for Ohio, so I think it was between them and Indiana to get one of those last 2 spots as far as the NCAA tournament. Number 9, Nebraska will travel to Iowa to take on the Hawkeyes. That's at 8 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. And at 10 o'clock on ESPN2 for Tuesday, number 13, Texas Tech will try to keep the good times rolling. They'll try to Arizona State to face the Sun Devils.
Yeah, staying out there in Arizona to play Arizona State. We'll see, what happens. Bobby Hurley, maybe not a good showing for him. He might be on the hot seat out there. Beating Texas Tech could help him. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Wednesday, Butler and Georgetown at 5:30 on FS1. Creighton and UConn, that's going to be on TNT and also stream on HBO Max. A good one here in the SEC on ESPN at 6. You got Arkansas and number 20 Arkansas, I guess number 25 Alabama. I know they've had their struggles lately. We won't get into the stuff that's going on there with what their players not being eligible. Loyola and Florida on ESPN Plus at 6. Oklahoma and Tennessee. I think Oklahoma could definitely use this win to fresh up their tournament resume. That's going to be on ESPN2 at 6 in the SEC. UIC against Evansville. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. Maryland and Northwestern on BTN. 7 o'clock on same time on True TV. You got DePaul and Seton Hall. BYU again without Richie Saunders. We'll see how they do because Arizona will not be in a good mood after what happened on Saturday. So they want to face some angry Wildcats there. Just a fair warning for all you Cougar fans. Kansas and Oklahoma State. It's going to be on Peacock, also NBC, CSN. Virginia and Georgia take on the ACC Network. St. John's and Marquette on TNT. Vanderbilt and Mizzou on the SEC Network. Illinois State hosts Murray State on ESPNU, a little Missouri Valley action. Illinois, speaking of, they face USC on BTN. And Gonzaga and San Francisco on ESPN2. At 10 o'clock, Boise State, Utah State on 9:30 at 9:30 on FS1. And Colorado State and UNLV at 10 o'clock on CBS Sports Network for Wednesday.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you on this Monday extravaganza edition on this special holiday President's Day edition of the program. We still have a few minutes left before closing it out with Old School TV Monday saluting Black History Month. LaKeena, let's kick it over to Italy in the Winter Olympics. We'll start off with that. Let's do that hockey. The USA men's hockey team, they last Saturday they trailed Denmark 2-1. But they exploded in the second period, finished it up in the third with the scoring comeback as they beat Denmark 6-2, and they'll start the middle round in that quest for the gold medal later on this week.
Yeah, they're number 2 seed on. Well, they're number. Okay, the way it's set up, I know people are wondering like what the heck's going on with the seeding. Okay. Basically, what it means is Canada's number 1 overall seed, but the U.S. is the number 1 seed on their side of the bracket. Okay, so for people who are trying to for people who are freaking out, like, okay, wait, I thought they were the number 1 seed. They are, but on another part of the bracket. Canada's the number 1 overall in that part of the bracket there. Now the schedule, of course, for the quarterfinals. Germany and France, Switzerland and Italy, the Czechia and Denmark. That's going to be the winner where that game will face the U.S. Sweden and Latvia. That's going to be all 4 of those games are going to be tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, like I said, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Which can the U.S. get into the medal round? Now on the women's side, of course, they shut out as expected. They shut out Sweden 5-0. They will face the winner of Switzerland and Canada for the women. That's actually going to start in about 10 minutes from now. Kendall Coyne had a goal for the U.S. Kayla Barnes also had a goal for the U.S. She started the route there for the U.S. So took care of business against Sweden, and then we'll see what happens in that second semifinal between Switzerland and Canada.
Yep, and those matchups would take place, as LaKeena said, for U.S. later on this week. I want to go into the speed skating, LaKeena. We have one of our own that looks like us, no pun intended, going for a gold medal last night. Tell us about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, she just missed the medal round. She was Erin Jackson, of course. She was the flag bearer for the U.S. as they walked into the opening ceremonies. Unfortunately, she just missed out. She was defending that gold medal. Unfortunately, she missed on the just missed getting the medal there. But a nice showing. But she'll actually have another shot at a gold medal later this week in another event. So we'll see if she can do that. And but also Jordan Stoltz has actually been sort of like the guy for the speed skating team so far.
I watched some of that on Saturday before All-Star Saturday. He was very impressive in his performance. I did just watch some of that live.
Yeah, he won both the 500 and the 1500 meters over the weekend. He's actually the first American to do that. Since Eric Heige, all the way back to 1980. Sid wasn't even born yet. Neither was I. For that one, and he broke.
That was my mother's stomach back then.
Yep. And
I was
yeah, and I
in
think
October that year.
yeah, of course he would go on to, of course, Heidi will go on to win 5 golds. He won't win 5 golds, Toes won't, unfortunately, but he will have a shot at winning 2 more golds later this week. So he can actually definitely get up there and tie the record. But yeah, he's been one of the big stars so far on the Olympics on the speed skating side now, and the pairs of figure skating and such. But U.S. might have a shot at a medal. We'll see. I mean, you've got two pairs of the U.S.'s. They're right there in the medal contention, and I'm hold on, let me get my stick of the names right. Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea. Of course, they led the U.S. in the team event. They've got a shot, perhaps maybe getting a medal that hasn't happened in like 30 years for the Americans in the pairs competition. So good luck to them. They got their free skate is going on right now as we speak. So hopefully they can make it, bring home a medal there as well. So most of the stuff that's going on right now. I mean, you got speed skating, you got the figure skating. The figure skating on the women's side, they start tomorrow. So we'll see if maybe the U.S. can get some maybe win a medal there as well. But so far so good. I mean, the bobsled. I know that Jamaica, they got a bobsled team. No, I won't sing that song for the 88 bobsled team there. But U.S. has a shot defending their title. The curling team may have a chance to win a couple of medals as well. They're both the men and the women. They pulled off some upsets, so they may have a shot against some medals. So far so good for the U.S. In the Winter Olympics so far as we go into the last week of competition.
Shout out to our guy Brandon Schutz in the chat. I forgot to shout him out earlier. Thank you as always for your support. He says he's watching the Olympics as he's listening and watching us. Of course, I got it on my monitor right now. It's the ski jumping men's super event, and I'm just amazed at Team Large Hill. I'm just amazed at some of these athletes. LaKeena, I know that. Do you even watch the X Games? Shout out to the X Games, and you see their influence in the Winter Olympics. But I'm just amazed at some of these skiers, not just the downhill skiing that we're used to seeing in clips and stuff, but the ski jumping. You really had to hang on in the air for, which seems like forever. You got to come down and not crash. If you could do that, you're very talented in my book. So we talk about all these sports like baseball, hockey, basketball, and football being these contact sports, that they are athletes and they're given that title correctly. But these athletes competing in the Winter Olympics, folks, pay attention to some of these. They are just as athletes as well. They don't get the props all year round like some of the other sports I just mentioned, but they put in a lot of hard work as well. And just watching this ski jumping event, the high ski jumping event, I've been very impressed.
And also, it's snowing out there right now too in that part of Italy, of Cortina. So the fact that they got to do this in the snow, I think that's going to be even more impressive. The moguls are also very interesting. I know the U.S. won a bronze and a silver in moguls, and you got to tighten your core there as you're going down the hill, and then you got to jump off this big hill, and then you got to go back into your stance, and get that. I don't know how they do that, but it's interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, like I said, of course, all the Olympic coverage will be on the NBC networks. You got Goal Zone with Scott Hansen, the game. They've done a great job there, show you some of the events. Also, all be streaming on Peacock as well. So should be a fun next week as we go into the last week of Olympic competition.
All right. And you're listening to Sports on Chicago, the Second City Sports. I'm saying it's LaKeena as we wrap up today's show. Anything else? Any last minute inquiries or any concerns, any last minute tidbits and nuggets before we close out for Old School TV Monday?
Just a couple of quick notes here. Congrats to Colin Morikawa, who held off Scottie Scheffler out there in Pebble Beach to win his first PGA Tour event in 874 days. No, I'm not being funny with that. It has been like 3 years since he won, almost 3 years since he won an PGA Tour event, and he's been right there in the last couple of tournaments. But to have a breakthrough, perhaps maybe get a chance as we go into the Masters coming up in a couple of months. I think gain that confidence. His putter's been really solid. So so he gets $3.6, I should say, $1 million. So that could help as well. But he has a U.S. Open, he has an Open Championship. So this is a guy that could probably have win another major this year. We'll see. And also the Daytona 500, Tyler Reddick, he wins his first Daytona 500. This is his third Cup Series event. He's actually a 2-time Cup champion in the series, and Well, one of his owners is Michael Jordan. Yep, but the OC part of the 23-11. Of course, the 11 is also Denny Hamlin, who finished, I think he finished in the top 10. And I know Bubba Wallace, I know he was leading for another one of their drivers. I know he was leading for like 40 laps. I know there was some the cautions and stuff that was just a little bit weird, but I know he wasn't very happy. But he kept a straight face. He ended up, I think he finished like in like 11th place or something like that as we get into victory lane. But seeing Michael Jordan out there, celebrate. I haven't seen him celebrate this much since the last time they won the Bulls won a championship. So to see his the excitement for Reddick winning, that was actually pretty exciting.
Yep. So congratulations to Michael Jordan and his racing team for capturing that title. All right. Around this time on Second City Sports, every Monday we like to close it out in style. Send you on your week on the positive note by saluting an old school TV show, a memory, a movie, a mini series, things along that line. But for Black History Month, this will be our third, LaKeena, our 3rd entry into our Black History Month series for 2026. And today for Old School TV Monday, we like to salute the short-lived TV show, The Royal Family. Yes, The Royal Family was an American sitcom television series that ran on CBS between September 18th, 1991 and May 13th of 1992. The series was created by executive producer Eddie Murphy. Yes, that Eddie Murphy was on SNL back in the day. As a part of a development deal Murphy had with CBS and produced by David Garber, Shelley Jensen, Deborah Leshin, Leslie Ray, and David Steven Simon. Other executive producers alongside Murphy were Mark McClafferty and Greg Anatansi. It was presented by Eddie Murphy Television in association with Paramount Television, the television arm of Paramount Pictures, a Paramount Communications company in which Murphy had been long associated with. The series starred the late great Red Fox and the late great Della Reese. Murphy had previously worked with Fox and Reese in the 1989 hit film Harlem Nights, which Eddie Murphy wrote and directed. The series chronicled the lives of Atlanta mail carrier Alexander Alfonso Al Royal and his wife Victoria, who are anticipated peaceful retirement years until marital promise brought an extended visit from their daughter Elizabeth and her 3 children, Kim, Curtis, and Hillary.
Yeah, Curtis was played by a very young Lawrence Tate in one of his first big roles and such. Yep, and unfortunately, it's hard to talk about this because I think that the potential was there, and it was intended to be a comeback for Red Fox, who he had not had a successful television series since, of course, the cancellation of the original Sanford and Son. The ratings were high. They actually, I think it even won the night in a couple of instances, but unfortunately, it suffered a big setback when in October of 91, Fox suffered a massive heart attack while they were rehearsing. And which is crazy because I know that Lawrence Tate, and I think also Della Reese too, I think for years before she passed away herself, that they actually thought that it was that it was part of the gag. Of course, that was his gag on Sanford and Son was the I'm coming Elizabeth blah blah blah. They thought it was a joke, but unfortunately it wasn't, and that took a massive blow there. He died unfortunately that evening, and the show they had to scramble, and they brought in Jackie Harry, to her credit, coming in as Ruth, Victoria's younger sister. They moved with the family to help cope with Al's sudden death, and that was in the 8th episode, and it kind of went on from there. But it was great to see her back at the time on television because that was a couple years after, of course, 227. She left her role at 227, but it just wasn't there. You knew that something was missing, and just unfortunate they would finish the season, but I think it got relegated. I think it's like Saturday nights or something like that to finish it off. And there were actually a couple episodes that didn't air. So yeah, that was it for that. So it was just unfortunate that if Red Fox had lived, I think that show could have lasted about 4 or 5 years. I think the potential was there. It was a little bit of Empty Nest, with a little bit of Cosby Show, a little Golden Girls, and kind of all those kind of mixed into one. And it's just unfortunate that circumstance that fate had other ideas.
Yeah, and like you say, you can't control what goes on in life. You had to deal with situations like that. And watching the episodes of this weekend, LaKeena, I just have to say that show did have potential. It was built around Red Fox's character, and I watched the last episode that aired with Red Fox before he passed away. I don't know if you saw the episode where they set up, at least through the TV series, that he's just all of a sudden passed away, because you remember in the episode he was supposed to be at his bowling league, and then his friends came over and told Della Reese's character Victoria that something happened to your husband. And of course, they did the whole thing at his funeral, and of course Eddie Murphy did the tribute at the end with Red Fox, living life with his family, showing the best of clips at the end there. I thought that was very first class move there. But like you said, Red Fox was doing movies and stand up specials in between the end of the Sanford and Son and when he got that TV series. Now, at the time, I think we talked about this before we went on there. I remember hearing about the news at the time. I was shocked. I was just learning about Red Fox. I knew a little bit who he was, but I was starting to learn about him as far as Sanford and Son and other. I knew him a little bit from Harlem Nights, even though I was a little bit too young to watch that. But I knew him from Harlem Nights and in another project that he did at the time. But I was starting to learn more about him. I knew it was a shock not only to the entertainment community but the Black community as well at that time. So I remember that show a little bit being on the air, but I don't remember watching the episodes. So I'm glad I got a chance to catch up this weekend. But like you mentioned, Jackie Harry stepped in a tough situation. She did what she had to do, but you could tell that it was missing. A prominent male figure was missing from that household, and I think that's what ultimately killed the show. And just looking at that cast, LaKeena, speaking of passing, of course, Della Reese would die many years later. Of course, she had another hit TV series, which we'll talk about down the road, and Touched by an Angel. She was great in that with Roma Downey. Of course, Naya Rivera, who played Hillary Winston, she was the 5-year-old cute kid. She died 6 years ago, which was very sad. And so you had just about an all-star cast, and unfortunately, some of them are no longer with us. But like you said, it had a potential to be a big show. It was the comeback for Red Fox, but his death changed everything. And I think Eddie Murphy, if Red Fox would have stayed alive for those few years, maybe he would have had a development for another hit TV show or a drama or a movie based on a family like that. We'll never know, but it was a nice project by Eddie Murphy. Thanks to CBS for greenlighting it, but it's just unfortunately, Red Fox's untimely death changed everything.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I was already watching. I had already watched repeats of Sanford and Son, so I knew, that I knew about him. I knew about the stand-up special. So yeah, I was young too, but I already knew who Red Fox was and his life off camera. Go to each trial with story. Check that out too. The Red Fox he has on YouTube from years ago, so you guys can check that out as well. But yeah, it's just unfortunate, like you said. I think that, but like I said, like we said, the potential was there for the show to have a long 4 or 5 year run. But like you said, unfortunately, fate had other ideas, and unfortunately, it's not streaming anywhere. Most of the episodes are all on YouTube, so you can check that out if you can. But yeah, this is another one of those shows that ended too soon, but this for a whole different reason.
Yeah, so for Old School TV Monday for Black History Month, Week 3, we salute the short-lived 1991-92 CBS sitcom The Royal Family. LaKeena, take us home.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter. X, it is back on. It's back online. LaKeena McGee on the Insta.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Now LaKeena wants to diss me as we going off the air. She will always say, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on the Facebook, YouTube channels, and for Sports Zone Chicago, you can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas. You can catch it if you miss a segment, an interview, what have you. You can catch it anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, folks. Enjoy this really nice weather we're having. Don't underdress, folks, because this is pneumonia weather. So be careful out there. I'm just saying, it said, of course, you got college hoops, of course, men and women. Of course, you got the Olympics, baseball. We'll get more to baseball, too, coming up as well. The NBA will be back in action on Thursday. So enjoy all that. And we'll be right back here on Friday to talk more sports and more. So for Sid, I'm LaKeena to the Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Holla.